Okay, so today we're going to go through how this is all going to work, and we're going to go through the first 6 questions. Okay, so I'm going to explain the flashcards, how the stuff will all work, and then I'll pass out your sheets with all of the different questions on it, and then we're going to go through the first 6, what the questions are, what they mean, and how to answer them. Okay, we'll do the same thing until we get through all of the questions, so make sure you mark your notebook very carefully. If you have your note cards with you, the reason we're going over how to do the note cards first is so that you can just write it right on your note cards instead of having to duplicate it. Okay, so you can do that. If you have your note cards, go ahead and get them out, okay? And we'll go through that process at the same time. Okay? So, how the note cards work. Okay? Shh. Guys, shh. This is my time to talk, not yours. This is a very important day. Okay? So, you will have 1 flashcard per question. Okay. Now, today we're doing 1 through 6. 2 days from now, so 2 class days, is when I'm going to be checking those. Okay, so every 2 days. So that means on Thursday I'm checking the cards for 1 through 6. They are worth points every single time. 1 point per card. So there's a lot of points coming up. Okay, so today you'll get the answers. That gives you a little bit of time to double check, make sure you have everything right. And then on Thursday, that's the due date for those. You can turn them in early. If you have them done today even, I could check them off today. If you have them done tomorrow, show them to me tomorrow. Okay, and then we'll just check them off little bit by little bit so that you know that you're studying the right material. Okay, so done. Now for the flashcards. On the first side, I don't care which side it is, you have the German question and nothing else. No numbers. The only thing that you could have on there is the indicator whether it's easy, medium, or hard, and I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, but no numbers and no English. Because some people memorize the answer with the number instead of memorizing it to what the question means. Okay, so that's why. On the back side, you're required to have the answer in German and the question number. Those are the only 2 requirements. If you want to have any English on there, then you can put that on the back side. So only place for English to go is on the back side where the answer is. Okay? Give you a second to jot that down. Yeah. So here's what an example card would look like. The front one is the front side of the card. So it just says the question. And on the back side, it has the question number in one of the corners. Okay? And then it just says the answer. Okay, so that's just a sample.
Is that an actual question?
It is, but don't write it down yet. Okay? Because your name isn't Jane Doe, for example. Okay? Are there any questions on that? Wesley?
No, no.
Or you're just stretching? Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to pass out your question sheets. They are bright green so that they're easy to find. You get 1 copy of this. There's another copy online, so you can always get extra copies. Okay? Have this sheet with you every single day. You can write on this one, but it's also nice to keep a clean copy. So it's up to you and what works for you. When it's time for the actual final, because we've talked about this a little bit, so the actual final, you'll come up and you'll have 3 minutes up front to answer as many as you can. While you're sitting in your chairs, this is the kind of sheet that you'd want to be able to read questions off of. So if you are going to write on it, make sure that it's very legible and that you don't cover up the actual question itself. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so when we are doing the final, what it looks like for me is you will be sitting up front, and then I have columns that'll say easy, medium, and hard. Okay? Then I have an above and a below line column. If you answer an easy, medium, or hard question correctly, very, very minor issues or no issues at all, then I make tally marks for each one that you get. Okay? Something like that. If you answer one wrong, the very first one is a freebie pass. Whichever one you fully don't have a clue on and just say pass, or whichever one you totally butcher. Okay? So say the very first one you just no clue, so you pass on it. What I do is I mark it down below. Down below is where you don't have them correct, but I circle that one. That's how I remember that one doesn't count. Okay? So it doesn't help you, it doesn't hurt you. Okay? Beyond that, if there's a hard level question that you struggle with, but you get through most of it, instead of marking you completely wrong, I'd bump it down a level. So if it was a hard level and you did most of it or whatever else, then I'm going to count it as a medium instead. Okay? If you no clue whatsoever and you've already used your freebie pass, then I mark it down here. Okay? Or if it's an easy one and you don't know it, there's no level to bump it down below easy, so then I would mark it down here as well.
Could hard go easy?
No. If you don't know enough, I mean, that's a good question. If it's a hard question and you only get through, like, we'll say a third of it or something, you don't know it well enough to get credit for it. Okay? In order to get an A, this is the only hard and fast requirement that I have. In order to get an A, you have to answer at least one hard level question correctly. Okay? But the thing to watch out for is if you answered a hard one and then you skipped or you screwed up a hard one, I take this one and I subtract it from the top one. So you answered 1 minus 1. That means you have 0 hard level questions. Does that make sense? If, and this has only happened once in 14 years, if no one asks you a hard level question during your 3 minutes, I will choose one at random at the end of your 3 minutes and make sure you have the opportunity to. But it really only has happened once. If you think about how many students I've had over 14 years, the odds of that happening are pretty slim. People are really good about it. Okay?
There's somebody in the class that genuinely hates you and they want to make your life a miserable place.
Karma's a thing.
Okay.
So if you're mean to them, they're going to be mean back to you. So be kind to people, but also keep in mind you don't want to give them just easy questions. Okay? You got to give them a variety, and it's really hard to just give somebody easy questions or just give them medium questions because they're mixed and matched on purpose. But it is a thing. You know, there certainly have been the more, we'll call them more bully type people in the classes, and it's come back to bite them. Okay, so for the most part, people are good to each other, but it has happened. So be aware of that. Okay? But if you're prepared, it doesn't matter. So if you're doing this as you go, it really, really, really will be the easiest test you ever take. And I'm not just talking about German. There was, I was talking to the German 2 students about yesterday that you guys were going to start this today. And it was all on Twitter, they're like, all just excited about it and everything else. And there's a student, he wants me to tell you his name. It is Zeke. And Zeke wants you to know that this is the only test he ever got an A on in German. Because he cared, and he did it a little bit as he went. So even if you aren't historically an A test taker in German, this could be something different for you. There's no, except for the flashcards where I help you with things, on the actual test there's no spelling or capitalization, stuff like that. Right? So that's a major win for a lot of people. You know what I mean? So anyway, he wanted me to make sure you know that, but it's true. The highest average score of any test that I give at all is this test. So that covers 4 levels. So just do a little bit as you go. Sam.
Has anyone out there got everyone wrong?
Everyone wrong?
Every single question.
No, never happened. Because, even if in the scenario where somebody's really struggling, people realize that, and they're going to start gearing questions more appropriately to them. So if somebody's struggling up here and you start throwing hard-level questions at them, you're the jerk. You know what I mean? So don't be that person. You'll figure out who's prepared and who's not. And if they're struggling hard, give them some freebies. How old are you? Give them those kinds of questions so that they can get some confidence and get back into the game. So I would say in a normal school year, a normal German 1 class, I probably only have 1 person that doesn't pass this test. Maybe 2. So you kind of have to try hard to fail this one, not going to lie. You have to make it your goal to not care at all. So, okay?
Yeah, what about the value of each of the
That's the hard part. The value of each question is not assigned a certain number of points. Because how you answer it and what the level was initially is going to make a big difference. So if you get a hard level question Like number 18, you'll find out is the infamous question. It's describing how you get to school. I don't mean by bus, I mean give me instructions. That one is brutal. Okay, that is the rite of passage. Okay, if you nail that one, sweet. I mean that's dang near worth 2 hard level questions. If you do well on it, but you make some errors, I'm not docking you, because it's the hardest one by far. If you have an easy level question, like number 3, we'll say, what is number 3? Yeah, and what does that mean? How old are you? If you screw up telling me how old you are, you're probably not spending any time studying. So a minor error in an easy level one is a big deal. A minor error in like number 18, gonna totally overlook it. So there's no hard and fast points value to any of them, because you could all make different kinds of mistakes on the same question. And especially since they're all questions about you, your interests, your family, your life. For the most part, people are going to have different questions or different answers to it, so it's hard to say. I think you'll be pleased with how it works out. When we get closer to the end, we'll do practice rounds, and I can tell you what your score would have been in that instance to give you a better idea. But you want to be shooting for 15 or more questions in 3 minutes, but it depends. If you get all hard, like if you answer all of the hard ones, you may only get through 10, and you still get an A. Whereas if you answer 15 easy ones, you might still be in the C range. You know what I mean? Very, very unique that way. Okay? The other thing of major note is extra credit and how you earn the extra credit. And that is by asking the questions when the other people are up front. You'll find that at the beginning, everybody's trying to get all of their questions in, trying to get all their extra credit points that they possibly can. Okay? The test itself is worth 100 points. Yeah, there's some deep breaths right there. But you can earn up to 10 extra credit points by asking the questions correctly. If you ask somebody a question and it's one that they've already answered or passed on, or you say it incorrectly, or you interrupt them when they're still answering so you don't know the answers well enough, then it will dock from your extra credit. It will not affect your actual grade, but it will affect your extra credit. Okay? But otherwise, you just keep asking questions. You have to pronounce it correctly, pay attention, that kind of thing. But it strangely works out well. The people who really want extra credit, they get all 10 every time. Okay? And especially in a class this size, it'll be super easy for you guys to get on. Okay? You won't be able to keep asking the same 2 questions over and over and over again. I'll limit you once I start noticing that's what you're doing. But it works out. Huh? All right. Shall we get to it? Any other questions before we go?
I'm ready.
Okay. Here we go. First question. Everybody repeat it. Wie heißt du mit Vornamen und Nachnamen? Okay, the first part of it you already know. Wie heißt du? What does that mean? What's your name? Okay. So how are you called? What is Vornamen? First name. It's the before name. Nachnamen is the after name, so that's your last name. Okay? So you're going to give your first and your last name. Okay? I want you to use your real names, not German names. Okay? So, here's how you're going to answer it. So you'll start off the same way as you do before. So, ich heiße. Now, I don't care whether you give your first name first or your last name first, as long as it matches correctly. So if you tell me, if you tell me that your Nachnamen is Wesley and your Vornamen is Dean, then you flip-flop them, and then that's wrong. You've mismatched them. Okay? But if you tell me them and matched correctly, I don't care which comes first name or last name. Okay? So, for example, ich heiße Jane. Mit Vornamen. Und Do mit Nachnamen. Yeah.
So, on the front side, I have the question, and on the back side, I have the answer and the question? Or do we have just the question, or just the answer?
The requirements for the back side are that you have the number of the question and the answer in German.
Okay.
If you have anything else, that's up to you. So some people also put pronunciation help on the backside. That's not a bad idea either. Pronunciation help for the question is acceptable on the front side. Okay? So make sure when you're writing this down, you don't put in Jane Doe. You put in your name. Just to be very clear on that. Here we go. Nimmer drei, how do you ask it? Wie alt bist du? Everybody, wie alt bist du? And what's that mean? How old are you? Alright, this one should be easy. Okay, what are your first two words? Ich bin. On your cards, write out all numbers in German. It'll make your life easier later. Because when you're practicing them, then you have the word right in front of you and you can just verify. This one's easier, but you'll have other numbers that get harder. Okay? So ich bin, I'll say for example, 14 or whatever. Put down the age that you will be finals week. That way you practice it whenever. So it's like June, like 5th and beyond. Does anybody have a birthday that last week? Awesome. Okay, so June 5th and beyond, how old you'll be at that point. Okay, so ich bin 14. How do you say that word? Jahre. And alt. Okay. So far so good, yeah? All right. Next one you should know. Okay, how do you ask that one? Good. Everybody, wann hast du Geburtstag? What's that mean? Wednesday. And you just did this in your family album, right? So you started off, ich. What comes next? Habe. And then? Good. And then you'll give the date. I'll remind you about dates here in a second. And then you give month. And at the end you put the word Geburtstag. Okay. So, for example, or just to recap the numbers. So, first is ersten. I do want everybody to write these ordinal numbers down in their notes. They are going to come back in some other questions. Okay, so that's why. So write down all of these, even if it doesn't affect your birthday. So first is ersten. Third is dritten. 7th is siebten. Okay. All other numbers that are 2 to 19, put the number, and you add 10. 20 and above, number, and then S-T-E-N. Let's try the number 5 again. So everybody, wie viel wiegst du? Oh, come on. Wie viel wiegst du? All right. Does anybody know what wie viel wiegst du means? Okay. This is one that some people choose to pass on, and that's totally your right. Okay? But beware, that means you have to have all the rest of them memorized. Okay, so unless it's your freebie pass, it will still count against you. It means how much do you weigh? Now, here's the thing. We're doing it in kilos so that you can learn the conversion system. That's why this question is in here. So you aren't going to be answering in pounds, and you're going to be going so fast, nobody will have a clue other than me whether you're in the ballpark or not. They're going to be so focused on what the next question is that they're going to be asking you for extra credit that they aren't going to care about your answer. And I'm looking for ballpark. Okay? So if you tell me that you weigh 100 kilo, that roughly equates to 200 pounds. So do you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be really obvious if you're in the ballpark or not. Okay? So usually what happens is people forget to convert it from pounds to kilos if they're going to screw up something in this question. So as long as you aren't doing that, then you'll be fine. Okay? So, here we go. Ich wiege, and again, sounds a little bit like vegan. Then leave a decent sized blank because you're going to be writing out a big number. Okay, because it's a long, takes a lot of letters, that kind of a big number. Just to clarify. And then after that, you'll have the word kilo. Everybody try that. Kilo.
Kilo.
Okay?
Kilo.
So, conversion. You take the number of pounds, multiply it by 0.4536. Once you get that number, round it. We are not doing any decimals anywhere in this test. Okay? So figure out what that number is and round it. Okay? So maybe it was 50 kilo. Okay? And I would just write in 50 into my blank. So my answer is ich wiege 50 kilo. And again, you're rounding it, no decimals.
If I have 61, can I say 60?
I'm not going to know. As long as you're in the ballpark. You know what I mean?
For a 1 in the front, it's not eins, right? It's just ein.
Ein, correct. Yep. So 51 or whatever. Mm-hmm. All right. Last one for today. Number 6. How do you ask number 6? Good. Everybody. Wie groß bist du? Do you know what that means?
How big are you?
Both. It means how big or how tall. In this case, we're asking, how tall are you? Okay? We're going to be using this one, using the metric system. Okay? So, that's why I told you you needed the calculator out for the last two. Okay? So, you will answer with Ich bin. Is there anybody that is like 6'6" or in that range?
Just a bit.
Okay. Then you're going to put ein Meter. I want to write pronunciation down for that one. Meter. Okay. Like the car in Cars, yes. Meter. Okay? And then you're going to put another number here. It's going to be a longer one. Okay? So leave a good sized blank. Okay? And then you get out your calculators. Now, here's how this works. So 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. So here's what you need to do. Figure out how tall you are in inches first. Okay, so 5 foot equals 60 inches. 6 foot equals 72 inches. So then just add the number of inches to it. So if you're 5'5", you're 65 inches. Okay? Does everybody know how many inches tall they are? Okay. Take that number of inches, multiply it by 2.54, and you should end up with a number that starts with 100. Okay? Does everybody have a number that starts with 100? Okay? If you're sharing calculators, jot down your number and then pass the calculator off to somebody else. Okay? The 100 is already in your answer. That's the ein Meter. Okay? So if you are 160 centimeters, is that it? Are you understand? Huh? Almost. Okay, so if I was 160, I'm not, but if I were, all I have to do in that blank is write down the 60 because the 100 is already accounted for. Okay? Is there anybody that is 160?
I'm too old.
You're what?
I'm too old.
Okay, so you're 162? So then you say, ich bin 1,62 Meter. Does that make sense? In your answer, you're not going to be saying the number of centimeters or anything like that. You'll just say ein Meter and then 60 or 62 or 74 or whatever it is. Okay? So make sure you write down that number in your blank once you got it. And that's it as far as your questions for today. Okay?